Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a very long overdue episode of the GITCAST podcast with me, Gitbag the Great, real name Ted Richardson, and my good friend Phillip, aka Flashsuppressor. How are you doing, man?
Alright, thank you.
So we haven't done an episode of this in a long time. I mean, this has kind of always been, I think, one of the more irregular series on my channel, but I don't know, I think we just, Phil was on and I was on at the same time, so we just decided just to do another episode for you guys, and it's been a long time. There hasn't been a colossal amount happening recently, but there's been enough, I feel like, that we can have a little bit of a conversation about. What do you think?
Oh, I reckon so.
Yeah, first thing, so a lot of the background footage maybe of this current Lanchester armoured car mode, which is being made by Wargaming at the moment to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the first use of the tank in combat operations. So a lot of the background footage may be of us playing that. If the background footage is of no interest to you guys, by all means just put this on in the background and listen to our surreptitious voices natter on about the world events. So, you ready to go into battle?
I am.
Right, good stuff. So, how have you been doing recently since our last episode, which is quite a few months ago now, actually?
Yes, indeed. No, I've had a great time all round, done all sorts of things, travelled a bit, had some fun.
Where have you been travelling recently?
Well, as you know, I went up to the Isle of Skye in Scotland over the summer.
Hmm.
And I also went on a diving holiday with the dive club to Cornwall.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
And what have you been doing recently since we started back at the university?
And since we started back at the university, well, I've been to kickboxing and I've been to a couple of the Politics Society events.
Yeah.
Well, this car is hard to control.
Yeah, I told you. Have you never played this? Have you never played this game mode before?
No, I haven't been on World of Tanks in a month or so.
Oh, right, yeah, no, you'll have to be very, very careful because these Lanchester armoured cars, they're basically like high-speed bouncy balls. They just clunk all over the place.
Oh, I like the down Zeppelin.
Ah, shit. So basically, the main thing of this is our team has to stop their team from delivering the bomb to the tank, and if they do, then we have to get it repaired as soon as possible.
Right.
And likewise, the vice versa if we're on their side of the map. Because the purpose of their team is to stop our Mark 1 tank from getting to their base and capturing it.
Got it. I see them.
And just shooting at the tank won't damage it at all. The only thing that will damage it is actually delivering the bomb to it. So, what have I been doing recently? I recently haven't been doing much either. Just like you, I've been just getting back into the rota of, getting back into the third year of uni. I did unfortunately have to miss out one session at uni recently because I was up in London last weekend visiting my family because my brother and his wife are temporarily living in Seattle on the west coast. And they were just over for about a week or so, so I went down for a few days to London from Brighton just to see them while they were still there. And also to see my nan and granddad because they were down from Birchington as well, actually. Then what else did I do recently? I recently tried to go out and talk to some girls last night with my mates. We went out on a small pub crawl. I got severely drunk, and so when I woke up this morning I had a severely bad hangover. So for brunch I just had this big tin of cassoulet that I bought back from my recent holiday to France. I just had that to sober myself up, which was actually really nice. And then, like you, I've just kind of been trying to get back into the rota of going back to uni, and I think I did a little bit of travelling as well myself over the holidays. Where did you say you went to again? Was it just the Isle of Skye?
I went to Glasgow as well for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. I went to the Macintosh tea rooms. You know, Charles Reddy Macintosh, which is a kind of artist and designer person from Glasgow, quite famous.
Yeah, I've heard of him, yeah. It's not his stuff isn't always my cup of tea, but he is very talented. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
See, wait. Ah, shit! I completely stopped. I completely failed to stop that guy from delivering the bomb. We are just getting our asses caned here.
We are.
Um,
I can hardly tell what's going on. It's all so fast paced. It's a change from the usual World of Tanks thing where it's quite slow a lot of the time. I kind of like this.
It's a bit chaotic, yeah. I mean, it's just kind of a good way for someone to blow off steam because the rewards are kind of quite small and the matches are quite quick on this mode, so it's nice that it's not so high pressure as, say, a normal game of World of Tanks, but it just depends on what you like, I suppose. Let's see, so where have I been travelling this summer? I've been travelling to Greece earlier this year, and as shown on this channel where I made a vlog of me and my mum going to Greece, where we travelled to the islands of Ithaca and Kefalonia.
Nice.
And then where else did I go?
Is Ithaca the one where, in the myth, oh gosh, what do you call it? Daedalus and his son Icarus had to escape from.
I'm not quite sure, actually. It does have that kind of sort of feel to it, of a very sort of isolated island that you could only really get to by sea.
Yeah.
Because there's no real place on there to get to by air. The only airport in that little archipelago of islands is on Kefalonia. And yeah, like literally the only way we could get to Ithaca was by ferry. And even then there was only like one major port on Ithaca. It's a tiny island. Like, Kefalonia is quite small itself. It's only got a population of about 50,000, but I think like Ithaca is like less than half the size. It's tiny, that place, but it's beautiful though, really. It's nice.
That sounds lovely.
And then more recently, as people might have seen on my vlog channel, which I put in the description below, I also went recently on a holiday to France with my dad. In particular, we went to southern Normandy in the north of France. I basically just chilled out there for a week, just ate loads of really nice open fire grilled meats and lots of really nice espressos and orangina and such. Now I bought myself back a nice little hamper of food from the French supermarket there, where what did I bring back? I brought back a tin of cassoulet, some Dijon mustard, a bunch of cheeses, some of that saucier preserved dried sausage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was amazing. It was really nice. It was. We literally just did nothing but just chilled out and ate really nice food and just kicked the ball around with my dad's dog, who actually took along with us. Yeah, no, it was just a really nice chilling out holiday.
And that sounds great. It sounds sort of like my time on Sky. It's not the sort of holiday my family and I normally do. We normally go to sort of a cultural centre, a world city kind of thing. It's not usual for us to sort of go out, somewhere that can best be described as rural. I mean, the sheep population on Sky outnumbers the human population by about 50 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing either kind of holiday. I mean, some people say it's kind of a bit counteractive to relaxing to do a holiday to go exploring, but some people do generally find that relaxing and enjoyable.
Yeah, I certainly did. I loved every minute of it.
I mean, yeah, I think the last time I went on a holiday like that was probably I'd say probably like 3 years ago, when I went to China for a month and I worked on an animal conservation park.
Nice.
Well, not worked, but volunteered rather.
Yeah.
But that was superb, and it was in the region near the city of Xi'an, where I went to see the Terracotta Warriors.
Oh, nice.
That was just amazing, just fascinating bit of history. And even though most of them have been vandalised, most of them are still intact anyway, so it's just a sight beyond marvels.
I'm sure. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing.
And then what else did I do this summer? I kind of didn't really do that much else travelling apart from those 2 trips this summer. I did, of course, as some people might have seen on this channel, go down to Birchington-on-Sea to visit my grandparents.
Not quite as exciting as the south of France.
No, but it was nice though, because it's just before then I hadn't seen them for a few months, and it was just really nice. Get some nice old-fashioned, homely British cooking, and just chill out with them as well. And then when And then when I came back, they gave me like a dozen homemade sausage rolls and like a big bread pudding and such. Like,
Nice.
it's great. Just always get really spoilt when I go there, but they're great. My grandparents, they're really.
I know the feeling. Yeah.
They make some amazing like traditional like British food. Like my granddad makes some really nice oat cake, and my nan makes the most amazing bread pudding and sausage rolls. I mean, I know you probably wouldn't like it, of course, what you being a vegetarian, but
I can understand why. I used to like sausage. Well, I probably still would if I ate them.
Did you used to eat meat actually?
Yeah, I only became a vegetarian when I was about 6, so I know what everyone's talking about when they say bacon and sausage rolls and whatever else are so good.
Yeah. Why did you become a vegetarian again?
I just sort of realised that it's kind of, well, I felt it was a bit sort of morally questionable, and also I was never really a big meat eater, so it wasn't.
No, it's not like you were missing anything serious out of your diet anyway.
No.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, the thing is, I love eating meat myself, and fish in particular. And I mean,
Yeah, I can totally see why, and I've sort of since learned a bit more like about how the meat industry works, and I realised it's just really kind of awful.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of why, like, if I can, I don't always get the chance, which is unfortunate, but if I can, I try to get my meat and eggs from free-range sources.
Yeah, I try to do that for my eggs as well.
Because at least then you have a slightly higher proportion of it being a bit more ethically sourced. I mean, I know it's not always viable, which is why I kind of find it a bit frustrating when people say, oh, you just shouldn't be doing this or shouldn't be doing that because it's completely unavailable in an ethical source. And I'm just thinking, like, well, if that was the case for every kind of food or veritable resource, then the world would just cease to stop working.
Yeah, well, I can see your point with that, and I can see how it's definitely going to be difficult for some people more than others to like stop eating meat, particularly like poor people. Well, I mean, not necessarily meat, but stuff in general that hasn't come from the most ethical sources.
Well, I mean, that's something that's particularly prominent, actually, I feel, because a lot of the time, really cheap, unethically sourced meat can be cheaper than, say, getting a healthier meal. Like, you know, I could go into, I'll go into like Sainsbury's and like a salad in there will cost like £3, whereas, you know, going to like my local chippy, or like not my local chippy rather, but my local chicken shop.
Yeah.
Like Zenith Chicken or one of those shite places, and like getting like a 4-piece chicken meal deal with like a bottle of fizzy pop and some fries. That'll all cost like at least like £1 less commonly, and it's probably going to be a lot more, perhaps, say, satisfying on a not carnival, basic sort of instinctive level.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I just feel it's a bit annoying that a lot of the more healthier food is treated as kind of like sort of more finer eating, and so, you know, people with a lot less money and time are kind of less incentivized to eat it. You know, that's kind of why I feel that obesity is a bit more of a problem right now, because healthier food is just so fucking overpriced.
Well, that depends on where you get it. I mean,
of course,
farmers market is a lot cheaper than getting it even at something like Aldi and stuff.
Well, that's true, but even then, I grew up in a part of London where a lot of farmers markets could sometimes be pricey. I remember going to the one in Blackheath, which wasn't too bad actually. That was quite reasonably priced, that place, but there have been some further out in the country, I think, that are just really just mental prices for just the simplest of things.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
And besides, when I'm talking about like healthier food being unfairly priced, I'm talking about when you get it from, say, somewhere like a supermarket, which is what most people these days have access to.
Yeah.
I mean, me and you grew up in areas where there were perhaps a greater proportion of things like farmers markets and community markets and stuff like that, but I'm talking about people in like the inner city and such who might not have as much immediate access to things like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You're right. I mean, it is difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't really blame people who eat meat. I don't look down on them like I'm sure some vegetarians do. I don't know. It's a massive.
It's just kind of a live and let live sort of kind of thing, really, isn't it? I suppose.
It's sort of like smoking. You know, I can tell smokers that it's bad for them and whatever else, but ultimately, if everyone else saying that hasn't made a difference, my being a pillock about it isn't going to help either, is it?
No, that's kind of, I feel, why me and you were kind of seen as black sheeps in first year politics seminars, because we just came up against so many people who refused to agree to disagree. And even though we don't always agree on political issues all of the time, quite patently, as shown by our debates on like things like the Brexit debate.
That's among other things, yeah.
Yeah, we still agree on sort of most sort of fundamental things, and it was just like crazy because they just lumped us together, even though we had kind of different ideologies, I guess, to a certain degree.
Kind of, yeah, and I think we kind of do. If anything, maybe we kind of change. You've become a bit more centre-right, and I've moved a bit more to the left, at least on social issues sometimes.
I guess so, yeah. I feel like at the heart of it, I'm still mostly centre-left, but I would say maybe moved slightly more to the right, which is a bit peculiar, considering that most of the people in my family are centre-left anyway.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I don't know. I think being at Sussex has definitely changed my outlook somewhat.
Made you?
I just worry whether it might not sometimes mean that people don't become more biased as a result of education in a particular sort of environment.
I feel like that as well. I feel like if you go to an environment of education where there's one sort of ideology that's prevalent above all others, you'll just get sort of homogenous sort of chamber of just people following one path, and you'll get like very little agreeing to disagree, I suppose.
Yes, it's very dangerous for anyone to be surrounded by yes men. I mean, even if you're totally right, which is sort of going to be rare, if you're just surrounded by people who think the same way as you, it's not really going to do your ideology or you much good, is it?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, with a couple of small things during the whole Brexit debate, even after we've changed our kind of outlooks on lives, and the fact that we've now got different sort of ideologies, we both still have slightly different ideologies from one another as people, but that's something we can agree on, despite our differences, is that it's bad to have just yes men around you all the time.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it sounds stupid, but I remember actually from the intro to the Toonami animation block back in the day, the main character who presented that show once said something like, sometimes criticism can serve a good purpose if it comes from a place of genuine sort of well-meaning or some such sort of thing like that, which I very much agree with, because you need people to criticise you so you can kind of just better yourself. I mean, it's a simple indictive, but it's certainly true.
Yes, absolutely. But on to, well, what about this sort of this special event then in World of Tanks? Like, what is it celebrating exactly?
Yes,
it's not the use of tanks at Combray, is it, or is it the use of tanks from the Somme when they were first deployed?
Yes, indeed. On to slightly less serious pastures, so to speak. Yeah, I think the reason why Wargaming have been doing this special event recently over the last few weeks is because it's, I don't know when exactly, I can't remember exactly when it is because I haven't studied the Battle of the Somme in quite some time, but it's recently been the 100th use of the 100th anniversary of the use of the tank in combat operations, which of course, as people know, was during the Battle of the Somme in 1916 during World War One. And the first tank that was ever used was called the Mark I tank, which was used by the British Army, and was, by modern standards, a piece of shit, but back in the day when it was first...
It was an incredibly high-tech product.
Yeah, back in the day it was a high-tech sort of piece of machinery, and it scared the living pants off of the Germans for the first year it was in operation. I mean, over a time I feel like they managed to get round to sort of figuring how to deal with it, but they never really managed to get some significantly and consistently effective means in place by the time they were starting to lose the war in late 1918.
Yes, indeed. And of course, by the time of the Battle of Combray, the British had moved on to things like the Mark IV and even the Mark. I don't know if the Mark V was deployed at Convoy, but after they got rid of the rear stabilising wheels and stuff like that, tanks became much more effective.
Not only that, but by that time they also had tanks with the modern style of turret of it being placed on the front than rather than on a sponson on the side, like the Mark I was.
Well, true, but that was only the French Renault FT17.
I know, which is what I would say is...
Which I don't think was deployed at Convoy. That was primarily a British offensive, wasn't it?
No, some FT-17s were deployed at Cambrai, but only in smaller numbers. They were mainly used a bit later at the Battle of Amiens, but
yeah,
I would say that was, if not for the original Mark I, I'd say probably the FT-17 is the most important tank in the history of the design of tanks, because even though it wasn't the first one or the earliest one to be employed in combat operations, it probably had the most revolutionary design in that it was the first one to like introduce that kind of forward-mounted turret sort of style that we now know to be common today.
Yes, I'd agree. But I don't know then that the Mark I deserves to be called the first tank. I mean, there were other heavy armoured vehicles in use before that, weren't there? Like the Whippet.
Yeah, but they were more like armoured cars, really, weren't they?
Well, the Whippet was tracked.
Yeah, but I don't know if it could really...
It had a large turret with machine guns on it.
Yeah, but it wasn't exactly used in the same way as the Mark I, though, really, was it?
No, I agree.
But yeah, no, as I mentioned a moment ago, the Mark I was first employed during the Battle of the Somme, when the British were struggling to make a bit of breakaway in the centre line of battle, and they employed several of the Mark I's, and even though most of them ended up getting broken down or bombed to pieces by artillery,
yes,
the Germans had the living pants scared off of them and were very much unable to deal with them for the most part at first.
That's right, yes, they helped a bit of a breakthrough about 5 miles on the first day, though that territory was later recaptured by the Germans.
Yeah, but I think then they were used a bit more throughout the battle and just helped stabilise the British line of battle.
Yes, that's true.
Although, to be honest with you, I think, as history has pointed out, the main purpose of the British offensive on the Somme wasn't really so much to...
No, to relieve the pressure on Verdun.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't so much to achieve tactical success as some people kind of persuade. It was, like you said, to help out the French, who were having an awful time of things at the Battle of Verdun.
Yes, indeed. I, for one, am looking forward to what's going to happen in 2 years' time on World of Tanks, on the 24th of April, which is the anniversary of the first tank-on-tank battle when the German A7Vs came up against the British Mark IVs.
Yeah.
I hope they do something along those lines.
God, the A7V. How many of those were produced? I swear it was only a couple of dozen.
It was 20, I think, were ever manufactured. Very few ever sort of really saw combat. And they arrived in pretty much October 1918, so very near to the end of the war.
Yeah.
Made absolutely no difference at all. They had a ridiculously large crew.
Yeah, it was something like 1.5...
16 people, I believe.
Yeah, almost 1.5 dozen just to pilot a single tank.
Yeah, no, it must have been absolutely awful in there, even more so than in the British tanks.
Can you I forgot? Can you pilot them on Battlefield 1?
Pardon?
I don't think. Can you pilot them on Battlefield 1? I don't think you can. But
well, I know you can control the guns and the sponsons.
Oh yeah, but no, I think it's just. I think it's kind of like something you can't drive, but you can control the guns on it at least.
Probably, yeah. I haven't played Battlefield 1. I don't really like the looks of it that much, to be quite honest.
I think it
looks like they did do a really good job of trying to be historically accurate, as long as it didn't impede gameplay.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I mean, there is that whole thing with them not having any French units or anything like that, or any Ottoman units.
Don't they have the FT-17 in it?
Well, I think so, but the Americans used that, didn't they?
Yeah, but it was. I mean, it was originally designed by the French.
Yes.
I can't remember much history about the Lanchester armoured car, though.
It was widely used, actually, in the war in the Middle East.
Yeah, because I mean, tracks wouldn't have been. Well, actually, I suppose wider tracks would have been quite helpful over
Wider
soft
tracks, yeah,
sand.
but sand would have got into like the tanks and it would have made them unusable.
No, but wider tracks would have been a bit nicer, actually. Like say with something like the T-34-85. I mean, that's kind of why that tank was used so much by the Arab armies after World War Two.
True.
But I mean, if you're going on slightly sort of harder sand bits, particularly around.
But imagine like the heat. The heat alone would have caused those tanks to break down.
Yeah, which is kind of, I guess, why more easily ventilated and just generally lighter vehicles like this would have been used a lot more. Ah, thank God the base was captured.
Excellent.
It doesn't matter now that the tank's destroyed, we've finally won a game.
Didn't we win the last one as well?
No, we didn't, because time ran out before we could capture the base.
Oh well. That was quite a successful one. Gosh, I got 6 kills. I love this game. It's so fast paced.
Yeah, it's just good to sort of like flick on a few matches of it now and again just to relieve the stress, I suppose, and just earn a quick bit of free XP. Plus, if you actually win a match, you get 15,000 credits, so that's a nice little bonus package.
Yeah, oh gosh. Excellent. Yeah, no, that's great. Hang on, what medals did I get?
What did I get? All I got was the field repair, because I think I repaired it like 2 or 3 times.
I got the honour guard for having helped the tank. Supporting it to capture the base, yeah. Okay, totally good.
Nice stuff. I mean, the thing is, this is hardly of what, of course, would have happened in real life. I mean, in real life, you would have seen the mark on the company more so by a battalion of infantry.
Yes, like the Third Battle of Ypres, notably, was when tanks were first employed, like as infantry escorts. In that way, columns of infantry advancing behind the tanks, effectively combined with air cover and so on.
Which is kind of like, I think, what kind of influenced later tank development in the Allied armies. They mainly used the tank as a infantry support vehicle, and tank-on-tank action was performed by tank hunters or tank destroyers. Hence the reason why the British ended up making the distinction between infantry tanks and cavalry tanks, whereas the Germans were quite succinct to making it a distinction between light, heavy, medium and tank destroyers.
Yes, indeed. No, that's sort of part of a fundamental disagreement on ideas of warfare, isn't it? The Allies focus more on like the Napoleonic school of thought, which is that, you know, you have large, well-directed battles, whereas the Germans eventually sided more with oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the German general who was also in the Napoleonic era, who advocated smaller units operating semi-independently.
Yeah. I mean,
definitely what the German Blitzkrieg was all about.
Which is confusing because the Germans did equip their armies in general to be made out for that kind of massive sweeping warfare, but then their individual companies and units like that were perhaps not always the best trained in sort of man-on-man combat, because it was kind of known during the Second World War that British infantry were better at smaller scale combat than the Germans were.
Yeah.
But then again, the one thing that the Germans had on the British is they kind of did use tanks slightly more appropriately as a big striking arm, while keeping, say, back light tanks and armoured cars and such for as the proper sort of support vehicles.
Yes, I suppose that's true, but it's also worth remembering that the earlier German tanks, like the Panzer II and the Panzer IIIs, that took part in the invasion of France, were fairly inferior in and of themselves to things like the British Matildas or the French B1s and Char d'Assaut, whatever.
Yeah, the B1, what a beast that thing was.
Yes, indeed, it had the massive mortar on the front, yeah. But the Germans had the advantage, of course, of radio in their tanks.
And not only that, but they also had a much more well-coordinated air force at first. So basically, whenever they saw one of these big, fat-ass, slow B1s, they could just flatten it with...
Send in the stupid dive bombers.
Yeah, exactly. They could just flatten it with Ju-87s and just bomb the living snot out of it. I think maybe that's what proved to be more decisive at first in the Second World War, is just a better sense of coordination and tactical acumen from the Germans, even though they really kind of had worse equipment overall.
Yeah, definitely in the first few months. No, that's true. But yeah, I was by no means certain that they would succeed. Like, the plan for a retreat from France in the first months of the war was definitely drawn up. They knew it was a real possibility.
Yeah.
They would fail catastrophically.
I mean, as it turned out, their invasion of Poland only took a month, and then their invasion of the lowlands and France was phenomenally quick-paced and brutal, so they never really needed to employ that action, I guess, and it was quite incredible, considering the fact, like I said, how bad some of their equipment was. I mean, like you pointed out, the Panzer III and, like, 2 were no match for things like the B-1 in head-to-head combat. I mean, the B-1 was basically just like a walking fortress. Had like a 37mm anti-tank gun, a 75mm mortar, like 3 machine guns, and it was heavily armoured to the absolute pits. It was like a walking Maginot Line. Well, I mean, less useless.
Yeah. I heard from a friend of mine who's also into military history
Yeah.
that the Maginot Line, I didn't know this, and I'm not sure if it's true. Maybe you can tell me. That the Maginot Line was kind of rebuilt and continuously staffed during the Cold War era, and and the Russians considered it a major threat and deterrent.
I can imagine.
I thought it was unlikely, but if you know different, please tell me.
I can imagine that happening, but with it being a bit more well concealed during the Cold War.
Possibly, yes. I mean, the Soviet tank army was considered a major threat.
Yeah, so a big fortification. Yeah, exactly. So a big fortification like that would have made a bit more sense, especially considering that Soviet tactics were perhaps a little bit more on the same side as what the Allies used during the Second World War. I mean,
surely they'd have focused on a large tank assault.
Yeah, in a sense, but they still used quite sort of straightforward tactics like what the Allies used.
True, but perhaps the NATO powers would have used the same doctrine as the Western Allies, namely employing massive air power.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. I don't know, it would have been interesting to see what had happened. I mean, the thing is, I think the main area of focus, where the Soviet offensive would have been through the main line of defence in central Germany.
Yes.
I mean, the main thing, of course, the fear of that was not so much the Russians trying to break through in the south, where there's a lot of forest, but more so trying to break through in the middle of Germany, where it's a lot of fields and where they could just easily punch through with like a swarm of tanks and then have like well over like 1 million men just disembark and start spraying and praying with their AK-47s. And it probably would have caused quite a bit of bother, I dare say, for the EU.
Yes, indeed. No, that's sort of interesting once again. I mean, that kind of feels like you're abandoning Western Germany the same way that the Belgians would have felt abandoned there if France had continued to build the Maginot Line around that border.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I always just find it funny, though, how the Maginot Line was just taken out in the first place. I mean, the Germans basically just walked around it, and then when it came time, months later, to actually taking it on and finishing off the bloody bugger, they pretty much just rolled up a bunch of tank destroyers and SPGs and just bombed the snot out of it face to face. I mean, you know, so like basically when it came time to breaking through it, they did it quite easily.
Yeah. To be fair though, by that point it would have been starved of any kind of supplies or reinforcement.
I know, but
yeah,
it is quite embarrassing.
Especially after they spent so much money on it.
Yeah, and it probably would have been quite a morale crusher, really, as well, considering that it was, you know, it was a bit ineffective, but still kind of a sense of military pride, I suppose.
Fair enough, yes.
I think the main problem, though, with the French is they were still kind of operating on World War I tactics, because they still maintained a lot of the fortresses around Verdun when the Germans invaded.
Yeah, so to be fair, those would not have been too bad. I mean, the Germans failed to breach most of the fortresses around Verdun.
Yeah,
and they were definitely very well engineered with the concrete and gravel layers that would have prevented even the most intense of bombardments from reaching them.
I still think it's a bit of an oversight that they decided to just use the same tactics again that were made for like protracted long war engagements. Although then again, I suppose they couldn't have really guessed a huge amount that the Germans would be all of a sudden using this highly mobile kind of warfare.
Well, they sort of could. I mean, that should have been obvious. Observers were sent to, like, war games that the Germans were carrying out, and it was obvious that they were preparing for a highly mobile war.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What is that guy with the repair kit doing? He's just fumbling around in the dark.
I have no idea.
God, there's the bomb. Quick, gotta get to it.
Look. Oh, okay. I really like this game. I just wish we could play as the Mark 1. Said it before, but still.
I think they're kind of doing it how they how old EA did, say the A7 in Battlefield 1. It's just used as kind of like a mobile gun platform in a sense. It's kind of like a target to destroy and escort rather than being an actual usable unit in a sense.
Yeah, oh well.
I think that would be. I think it's for the benefit of the gameplay, though. Really, considering.
Yeah, I know. It would be stupid to want anything else, but yeah. I just hope that in 2 years' time they make like an A7V versus M1 Mark IV.
No. That is a stupid idea. Stop it. I'm sorry. That would just not work. There was like one battle like that during World War One, and it was apparently one of the most stale battles of the entire conflict. I refuse to let that happen. A World War One kind of shooter like in the vein of Battlefield 1, I can imagine. But
yeah, well, they kind of haven't done that too realistically because most of them are sort of armed with submachine guns.
Well, submachine guns were used in a limited sense during that war. They were used in a limited sense during that war.
Yes, but not for the vast majority of infantry, and definitely not in that form until like the late 1918. Well, no, 1917 to 1918 would have been large-scale introduction of sort of portable machine guns, large and submachine guns.
Yeah, I still think.
No, they definitely went to a great lengths to get things as historically accurate as they possibly could.
Yeah. I think.
But I don't think I'll be playing it anytime soon.
I would like to get it at some point. I think the two games I really want to get. The few games I really want to get soon is. Well, I mean, I've already got one of them, which is FIFA 17, but I just have to upgrade my computer before I can play it. And then I also really want to sometime soon get Space Engineers and Overwatch.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about Overwatch. I mean, yeah, it sort of strikes me that it's basically just like, well, not League of Legends, but there have definitely been sort of similar things like Team Fortress and whatever else. Like,
I know. I think the
idea of just playing the same game over and over again in anything other than World of Tanks is sort of a bit off to me.
Well, you could kind of really just put that down to personal preference, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you could say that about any game like with the same similar vein of Overwatch.
Yeah, no, I mean it looks good. It looks fast-paced. It looks fun, and I like the character designs.
Yeah, I mean on the flip side, I do understand why people don't want to play it because it does seem quite similar to TF2, and the presence of microtransactions in a paid game does seem a bit iffy. But
yeah,
the thing is, I think the one thing people forget about that is the microtransactions don't actually have any impact on the gameplay, apart from like exceptionally minor sort of cosmetic actions and stuff like that. So it's really not that too bad of an issue. It's only like say where I can't really think of a good game, but in an actual big paid game where microtransactions would give you a significant advantage from the one-off or from immediately from paying, then that would be a problem.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I see what you mean.
But I mean, with Overwatch, they're so minor. It's not really that much of an issue, which is why I don't see people getting so angry as much as I don't see that being all that reasonable, to be honest.
No, I'm not angry. I'm just saying I don't think I would like to play it. It's not my type of game.
Yeah, I know. I completely understand that, to be honest. It's not everyone's kind of cup of tea. I mean, I didn't always like Team Fortress 2, even though it was a superb game, and I can understand why people would think that Overwatch is a tad similar. I do.
Yeah, well, to be fair, if it's a concept that works, there's no need to change it. I'm just sort of.
No, of course. I mean, you look at. And I kind of feel a bit reticent to use the example of Call of Duty to support that, but then again, their franchise has kind of stagnated at this point. I mean, it's still massively popular, but sales have dropped down like massively over the last, particularly over the last like 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah, I have played a few Call of Duty games. They're okay.
I'd say probably my favourite is still the first Modern Warfare.
What about the second Modern Warfare?
I'd say probably that's the last one that I would say was significantly good. I really liked the original one set in the Second World War, and then I loved the shit out of the first 2 Modern Warfares. And do you remember World at War?
I haven't played that.
That was the last one made by That was the last Call of Duty game to be based off the Second World War. It's actually a really good game. It's made by the same company that made the Black Ops ones.
Yeah, I played Call of Duty Black Ops 1. It was okay.
I didn't really like the story though. People were always saying to me like, "Oh, it's really smart and deep," and I just thought this just seems like the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist who's making up another crackpot theory on the JFK assassination. Which, funnily enough, the story of the first Black Ops actually ends on.
Really?
It's just such.
Maybe I played Black Ops 2 then.
It's a terribly written story. I don't understand what. I mean, again, it's personal preference, but to me, it just seems like a bunch of convenience and just contrived, just general bollocks. Maybe I'm being a bit overly simplistic, but I just don't like the story in the Black Ops games.
Fair enough.
It's just a bit convoluted, really. I mean, I suppose that's actually a problem as well with the Overwatch, because the story in there.
I thought the story was kind of a bit generic and vague, really.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. The story in that isn't that good either. But the thing is, it's not like completely overly over the top, kind of conceited and just overly complicated in the same way that the Black Ops storyline is. It's quite straightforward, but
yeah, fair enough.
But I think that suits it just fine, really. It's not the best written, so to speak, but it suits a game like that just fine, I suppose. I do have to say though, I mean, this really showed me up though. But one of the reasons, this isn't the main reason, or even one of the main reasons, but one small reason, one of the side reasons why I might want to play Overwatch is because the female characters in the game are, shall we say, interestingly or rather appealingly designed, I have to say.
Yes, though, to be fair, they did change part of that immediately the moment there was any kind of criticism to it.
Well, they didn't change the appearance so much, they just changed a couple of the action poses of some of the characters, particularly Tracer, but
yeah,
I think that was a bit too soft, so to speak. I think they should have just stuck to their guns.
I think so as well.
Because the thing is, the pose they changed it to was still, like, kind of the same, showing off a lot of booty, and in actual fact, the pose they changed it to, it was actually based off of a real-life vintage pin-up poster. So it was basically like they just said, "All right, everyone who was claiming to be offended by this, we'll change it, but instead we'll change it to one that's just as sexy. So, suck an egg." It's just like, you guys didn't fucking achieve anything with this, did you? It's like, but to be honest with you, I don't think they should have changed it anyway. I mean, the change they made wasn't really that bad at all, but...
No, I know. It's not like they redesigned her whole character.
No, and I mean, to be honest with you, I think the people who were complaining about it were just making a mountain out of a molehill, as people are wont to do when complaining about that sort of thing. But, I mean, aside from that, I do like the designs of the characters, particularly the female ones, what with me being somewhat of
I kind of like... what's the name of that one who flies? The flying one, the flying character.
Wait, do you mean the one with? Are you talking about the one with the armor who shoots loads of rockets and missiles?
That sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that. What's her name? Tip of my tongue, actually. Farah, actually, that's it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, she looks like quite a good design. And I also like Mercy as a support character.
Yeah, I quite like her design as well. I think probably my favourite would have to be either Tracer or the big Russian lady, Zarya. Again, it's kind of out of part of me being part Russian myself, but I quite like women who are sort of tough and strong.
Yeah, I can agree with that, yeah.
What I quite like as well, actually, is how they've tried to base every character onto kind of a different nationality. I mean, you've got Tracer who's British, you've got Roadhog and that other crazy-looking bloke he hangs around with who are Australian. You've got Lucio who's Brazilian. You've got Zarya who's Russian. You've got Farah who's Egyptian.
You got Soldier 76 is his name?
Who's basically Mr. America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like how they've made it quite a diverse cast, but they haven't sort of stuffed it down your throat, so to speak. It's quite refreshing how they've done it.
Yes, I would agree.
Then.
No, I haven't really been playing that many video games. I've just been going through BioShock and replaying a bit of Undertale to get the full experience, and I also bought the BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea DLCs, which are really good.
Good stuff. What did you're playing the original BioShock? Did you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Oh, I kind of like it. I think it would have been better if it had sort of like not a silent protagonist.
Yeah.
I felt like they needed to sort of build up the interactions with Ryan more. I just didn't really get as much of a sense of him as I'd wanted to, because he's a really great villain.
I think it was fine enough as it is, really. I think it was better to keep him in the shadows, in a sense, kind of like a less comedic version of the Joker.
Yes, I suppose you're right. Then also, like, our support character, who we never really see. I mean, I just didn't really get a sense of the character's investment in the plot. That's the main thing. And also, it was quite dark and atmospheric, but that kind of made it hard to see anything.
Yeah,
that's gameplay kind of tricky.
Yeah, that's one thing that kind of annoys me is when when game designers use dark as in dark lighting or dark setting as like the main anchorage point for the actual mood and ambience and sort of style of the game, rather than just as an aesthetic sort of kind of standpoint. I mean, I've seen like brightly coloured games that have been dark as hell in terms of their theme and sort of standpoint.
Yeah.
Like some parts of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker are grim and really quite sad and dark, but it's one of the most vibrant looking games I think anyone will ever see.
Yeah, so I like the cel-shaded graphics look that they've got going for them.
Yeah, for some reason people didn't like that at the time, but I mean, even though I'm not a massive Zelda fan, I really like that style of shading. It particularly suited the style of the game itself.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I've only ever sort of played, like, I played Ocarina of Time and Skyward Sword.
I mainly played the handheld Zelda games in my time. I did quite like, actually I remember Majora's Mask. That was a right old laugh.
Yeah, I kind of like that one as well, because it's a direct sequel.
Yeah, which
actually quite refreshing for the Zelda, or indeed the Nintendo universe in general.
Yeah, it was kind of like the I kind of feel bad like saying this, but it's kind of like it's kind of like to the Zelda franchise what Final Fantasy X-2 was to the Final Fantasy series. But I feel kind of bad using that reference because Final Fantasy X-2 is a phenomenally shite game.
Yeah, I know. If that's the case, then Ocarina of Time is Final Fantasy VII. But I'm not a fan of the Final Fantasy games.
Final Fantasy VII wasn't the sequel, though.
No, I know.
I'd say if you're using that kind of example, then it would say the Zelda franchise's equivalent of Advent Children. which kind of was more of like a theoretical sort of sequel, but in a somewhat similar vein. I do find it interesting though when game series that don't really focus on sequels and just preceding sort of entries go to the vein of actually making direct sequels to the entries, even though they've never significantly hinted at doing that. I mean, half the time it will pay off, but then the other half of the time it just doesn't. Like, say, I think it did pay off with the Zelda franchise, like you mentioned, with Majora's Mask, but then when they tried to do it with Final Fantasy, it just fell on top of its head. It did work again, I think, with the Ace Combat series, because I don't know if you've ever played Ace Combat 5, but the game that came right after Ace Combat 0 is actually a direct prequel to it.
I have never played Ace Combat, I'm afraid.
It's a good game. It's a good series. I'd say they're all pretty good, really, to be honest. I don't like Ace Combat 7 as in the one that's based on real-world countries. I mean, that's not because of any sensitive subject issues, it's just not a very good game. But overall, the series itself is still pretty sweet.
Yeah. Now, I saw your review of the Jedi Knights Academy thing.
Yeah, that's one sequel I definitely would recommend, actually. It's superb. It's not as hard or, I'd say, as challenging in a good way as its precursor at Jedi Outcast is, but it's still a fun game. It can repeat itself a little bit in certain places in the gameplay, but god damn, it is a fun game. I think it's really cheap on Steam right now. It's only like about £7 or something like that for like a game that's like the length of, that's at least a couple of hours longer than the average COD game. So you're getting a lot of gameplay out of it, and also a multiplayer community that's still going strong and has a lot of modding to it.
Is it? Well, I thought the multiplayer mode had been like stopped. That was why I was surprised when I saw it in your review.
Well, no, the thing is, I mean, they did stop the manufacturing of the official online servers for the Jedi Knight Jedi Academy online servers, but the online community is still kept going strong by people operating their own third-party servers on, say, services like Tungle and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, so if you use external sort of software and services like that, then you can still play online on Jedi Academy just fine. And the online community is still quite strong to this day, really, and even to the extent that there's actually a lot of modding in it as well. So you'll find a lot of the time on the online community, when you go onto multiplayer on Jedi Academy, there's actually a shit ton of modding servers on there.
Well, I'll try that then. I mean, I tried the free-to-play Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars: The Old Republic game, which I didn't like at all, really.
Yeah.
I just don't like sort of online RPGs like that focus more on sort of numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're interesting simply because of like game design history and so on, how that was the only way it was possible for a while to do an online multiplayer game. But now that you have things like this,
yeah,
whereby actual skill counts, well, I say skill, but yeah.
I'd still say probably the most important advancement in the history of online gaming, though, is what I just mentioned with things like Tungle, where games that are less viable nowadays can still be played online in a mass market sort of sense by the fans, and the online.
At least these days we don't have to all gather with our big PCs in the same room.
Yeah, which is why Ethernet cables and sort of long distance Wi-Fi is such a beautiful thing. I mean, the thing is,
particularly with like path prediction, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love having LAN parties, like getting in some Domino's pizza, a case of old Jamaica ginger beer, and some Snickers bars and McCoys, and just having a grand old time, just sitting in a room with your mates, just playing some LAN sessions of things like World of Tanks or RPGs and stuff. It's kind of a beautiful thing to me, really, but I suppose there's just more practical ways now of just gaming online with your mates. which is why I do like playing games such as this, because it's so easy just to play with people across long distances.
Yeah, I know, it's quite amazing.
I mean, me and you, even though we're right now in the same city, we're still like miles away from each other, so it's just nice and practical, really. Don't want to see your fucking face in person. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's...
I'm definitely not going to turn the camera on, not after the last time I did that.
Wait, when did you turn the camera on?
Don't you remember that one time when I accidentally had the camera on, and I didn't realise it, and I was in a compromising position?
I totally don't remember this.
Really? Oh, good. Never mind it then. Okay.
Well, now you've just said it on video. Actually, no, the worst one I ever had with that kind of situation was this one time when I was talking to Telescuffle on Skype, and he didn't realise that he hadn't hung up Skype or turned his camera off. And he was undressing, and then I said, Scuffle, why are you taking off your clothes in front of us? And he just kind of shat himself. And fortunately, I didn't see anything compromising. All I saw was him taking his t-shirt off. But so I didn't see anything overtly sexual. Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not ugly or anything, but it's just like I don't really want to see naked half Irish man. So yeah. But fortunately enough, he realised what he was doing before he showed anything ghoulish, so to speak.
Yeah. So we have another go in the Lanchesters, and then I had an idea. Maybe we could try it like I play an artillery piece and you play a light tank, and you act as a scout for me, the way it's actually meant to be played.
Yeah, sure. What artillery do you have?
I've got the I've got the British M40, I think it is.
I totally don't remember that.
No, the Sexton 2, sorry, I got the Sexton 2.
Sexton 2. Oh yeah, I vaguely remember. What tier is that again?
Tier 3.
Tier 3. I might have a couple of tier 3 or 2 light tanks.
Hang on a moment, I'll be back in a minute. Just got to release my cat.
Oh dear God. Yeah, if some of you don't remember Phil, where he's staying in now in his student house, his landlord actually has a cat.
Okay, I'm back. No, she's just been howling for the past hour.
What's how's the cat doing?
The cat's happy, aren't you, Bill? Say hello to the internet. Say hello. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. How old is it again?
She's 17.
What, in human years?
Yeah.
Good God.
Hello, yes, I'm sorry I locked you away.
There's actually a couple of cats in living in the roads where I've moved into now in my new... Well, they don't live in my new student house where I'm living right now, but they live in the road where my new student house is. I just see them just wandering around sometimes. There's actually a black and white one that's always just like laying down in our back garden, just chilling out there. It's just like, yeah, try and move me, dickhead. But he's alright. He actually comes right up to our front doorstep. He's actually really chill. I don't know how old he is, though.
Yeah, no, I like cats. You sort of hop around.
I think I used to be solely a cat person, but now I'm a bit more open, really. I like dogs and cats, really. Especially since my dad got a miniature bull terrier, who's just been an absolute... I mean, he can be a bit of a dick, my dad's bull terrier, but bull terriers by nature are quite sort of... they're not violent dogs, but they're just quite sort of rowdy. I mean, they're not like violent at all, because it kind of all depends on the owner, really, whether they are or not, but by nature they are quite sort of rowdy and sort of rambunctious little scamps. But yeah, no, my dad's mini bull terrier he's a real lad. He's a really nice dog.
Yeah, no, I met your dog. He's nice.
Yeah, he it was quite funny actually. I tried to get my dog to just say hi to you, just in a normal sort of like dog sort of way, but he instead just seemed to want to just jump up at your face. Because he is bloody excitable when he meets new people. He'll just like really jump up at them, which is I mean, like I said, he's not a violent dog at all, but like, you just have to be quite careful when you get him to introduce him to little kids, because he might knock them over or anything. I mean, I've introduced my dad's dog to little kids before, and they've been great with him, really. Like, they were like the kind of kids who were really curious and quite sort of open and friendly with him, which was really good. In fact, actually, that's another thing that is quite recommended when you get a dog like a bull terrier or something, is to introduce them to kids early on so they know how to deal with them in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember once I had my mother's cousin had a dog, a giant golden retriever.
Yeah.
Really gentle, but she was really old as well. Couldn't really move around so much anymore.
How old is she?
She died a couple of years ago, and I think she was about 20.
Yeah. So that meant... Wait, in human years?
Yeah.
God, that would mean she would have been at least like 120 or so in dog years.
Yeah, no.
Good God. Yeah, no, my dad's dog is only a couple of years old, so he's only about like a teenager in dog years.
My sort of dogs became sort of almost fully adults after about a year. They are capable of reproducing after that, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're still quite young in sort of similar vein to how a teenage human is, in a sense.
True.
Would you ever consider getting a dog yourself after you've or a pet in any case after you've left uni?
I don't think so, really. No. I mean, I'd need to sort of like settle down first, and I need to consider what kind of pet. And of course, being vegetarian means that I kind of have a bit of a thing of like buying meaty pet food, and I would never buy vegetarian pet food because that's terrible for a carnivorous pet.
Yeah.
No, I really don't like it when people buy vegetarian pet food for their pets.
It just doesn't work.
Very bad for them.
Yeah, it's just not a great idea.
No.
I mean, the thing is, you can feed a lot of animals like things like carrots and apples and bananas and stuff, and with a lot of creatures it is the mainstay of their diet. And a lot of dogs can eat sort of things like bananas and things like tangerines. The one thing actually though that you should never feed a dog is grapes or raisins.
Really? I didn't know that.
Absolutely never do that, because they have specific antioxidants in them that dogs' livers and digestive systems just can't break down, like at all.
Right.
So basically, just like it's kind of like if you fed them human chocolate, like chocolate meant for a human,
Yeah.
it would kind of have a similar effect in a sense.
Yeah, no, you're not allowed to feed dogs chocolate, I know that much.
At all, no. And the same thing with grapes and raisins.
You've also got to be careful these days feeding them peanut butter, because a lot of owners like to feed their dogs peanut butter and cotton.
I just wouldn't do
Before
that.
that was fine, but these days it's got, I don't know what it is. Is it palm oil that many types of peanut butter have in them these days that are very bad for dogs? I'm not sure.
I think it's something like that. I just wouldn't do it anyway, because it just seems like one of those things that would just make them overly fat. Actually, tell you what.
Yeah.
One thing that really annoyed me is this one time when I was watching one of those dog whisperer shows. I don't know why, because they're bloody shite, but I saw this one woman on one of those shows once feeding her dogs sweet tea and Mr. Whippy sort of ice creams. And I was just thinking, that's just...
No, that sounds awful. No, that's
just
borderline animal cruelty there.
Yeah, it just sounds like the... Yeah, exactly. It just sounds like borderline animal cruelty. Like you're just overly spoiling them to just a ridiculous degree. I mean, maybe I'm getting a bit overly reactionary about it, but it just seems like a bit much, really, when you're caring for your dog.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would never do that to an animal at all.
Yeah.
Never put them in ridiculous clothes either, or anything like that.
If you did get a pet, though, what kind of one would you possibly get?
Well, I wouldn't get a bird, because that seems stupid, and I wouldn't like to sort of have to lock it in a cage or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'd get a pet that could be sort of fairly independent. I mean, I think a cat actually would be quite good. I had a guinea pig before, but guinea pigs are kind of boring.
Yeah. I think for me, it'd have to... I think my three favourite kind of pets that I probably want to get is either a cat, a mini bull terrier like what my dad has got, or I used to have a babysitter who had a couple of geckos, and they're quite fun to take care of, but they're also quite easy to take care of as well. So for me,
no, sounds
for,
good actually. A reptile might make a pretty good pet.
yeah, so I'd have to be, but for me, it'd have to be between either a mini bull terrier, a cat, or a couple of little geckos.
Hmm. I think I'll stick to having a house plant from now on though.
What, you just pull a Simon Webb Hot
Hot
Fuzz?
fuzz?
Yeah,
Yeah, I love hot fuzz.
or Jean Reno, where his only friend in that film is a pot plant in Leon the Professional. Do you remember?
No, I haven't seen that film actually.
It's really good actually. It's
Watched Hot Fuzz recently though. That was really quite funny.
yeah, I mean, Leon the Professional is a much more serious film. It's about an assassin who adopts this little girl after her family is murdered and basically trains her up to be this hardcore assassin. So it's a bit of a far-fetched film, but it's very good. It's got really good performances from Jean Reno and Gary Oldman. And it's kind of like the first film that Natalie Portman ever acted in, kind of propelled her forwards, really.
Wow. Okay.
Actually, that's something as well. Like, I know... Oh, for fuck's sake, Phil, did you just ram into me and track me?
Sorry.
You flipping... How? I was in, like, possibly one of the most open parts of the map, and you just go, I think I'll just ram right into Ted's arse.
I'm sorry. I was sort of in kill mode with the red mist descending.
That's the exact same thing.
Kill mode.
It's the exact same thing as what happened to me the other day when I was around Brendan's house playing it with him. Actually, talking about films, that brings me on to actually another thing. I know whenever we talk about this, we usually talk about it at the beginning of these podcasts. But have you been seeing any new like films or TV shows recently?
I haven't been seeing that many new ones. We watched most of the Harry Potter films recently with my little sister because she bought the play. She bought the script to the new play to read it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan or not. You don't strike me as one.
I only really like watching the films. Even then, I didn't really watch the last one just because I wasn't that interested.
Okay, fair enough. But no, we've sort of gone back on the Harry Potter craze in our house.
Yeah.
Trying to think like what else I've been watching really. I've been watching a fair few documentary series. One by what's his name? The American astrophysicist person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called Cosmos. It's like a history of the universe. I've also been I've been rewatching The Legend of Korra again just because. So no, I haven't really been watching that many very new things, to be quite honest.
Yeah. What else? What have I been watching recently? I haven't really watched any films recently myself. I kind of do want to go out and see this to the cinema sometime soon, which I should be able to do. I mean,
See what film in the cinema?
I don't know, just whatever seems interesting because I have started to get paid from my part-time job recently, so I could potentially do it sometime soon. But I have started watching again Game of Thrones because I watched it all the way through. I've started watching it again recently. Watching reruns of Match of the Day for me has been a bit tricky recently though because you have to get a TV license to stream stuff on BBC iPlayer at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just a bit exhausting. It's just another reason why the TV license is just a pile of shite. But I mean, I'm gonna talk to my housemates about getting one anyway because it's not that expensive. It's like £12 a month for a year, so it's like not very much.
Yeah, no, it's worth it definitely. I mean, at the moment, like I'm watching, like Poldark. That's true. I've been watching the new series of Poldark. Kind of into that.
What, through BBC iPlayer?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I've been watching Bake Off, of course.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I know you're not, but I am.
Oh, God, yeah, I just don't like that show at all. It's just way too much concentration on the theatrics and sort of the what do you call it? The just the theatrics and the looks of
Well,
it
the
all.
aesthetic, I don't know. I mean, I thought the aesthetic was kind of nicely understated. I mean, they're just in a tent, usually in a sort of nice Englishy environment, grounds of a country house. And I mean, obviously they sort of keep the tension up, but nowhere near as much as things like Hell's Kitchen or
No,
something like that.
no,
Something ridiculous.
certainly not. But I just don't like the way it's presented. Really, it's just I don't know. It's just I can understand what you're saying, but it's just not that interesting to me, really.
Oh, fair enough.
I just prefer purely technical cooking shows like actual cooking shows and stuff, which is kind of why I started doing made my third channel into a cooking channel, because I just like concentrating on the technical side of it, really. I mean,
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I mean, call me a bit boring, but I mean, again, it's kind of just different tastes, really, I suppose.
Yeah, fair enough. Hmm. Shall I have a last go at it then?
What, this game mode?
Yeah?
Yeah, sure thing. And don't ram me up the arse this time.
Don't worry, I'll just shoot you.
No, don't fucking do that either. I know we get instant respawns on this mode, but still, don't do that.
No, don't worry. There's nothing I hate more than team killers.
Yeah, same. It's kind of why I don't really use the test server on World of Tanks anymore. I mean, to be fair, I just look up the updates on the wiki and what they involve, and that's fine enough for me, really. Because I just don't like using the test server. That's probably my main gripe with the game at the moment, aside from everything else, is the fact that I just don't like using the test server. It's nothing really so much to do with... Well, maybe it is in part to do with the design of the game, but the design of the game I still think is stellar and is just magnificent. But it's more so just to do with the kind of people you usually find on the test server on an average day when it's out.
Yeah, no, I can understand what you're saying.
I mean, it's literally just a pit of scum and villainy. It's like Jingle said, it is literally the Mos Eisley of online gaming. It's just full of racists and homophobes and people trying to scam you. And...
Surely that's the online mode of Call of Duty.
No, not even. I don't think even. Well, actually, no, that is kind of true. Yeah, the online Call of Duty community.
You rammed me that time. That was your fault.
That was by accident. I swear. But no, I would agree with you. Actually, the online Call of Duty community is pretty terrible. I mean, there's a few examples.
I don't really like online modes of games just generally. I sort of feel like something like this is sort of fun and makes a lot of sense, but
yeah,
the idea that the way people seem to think that an online mode sort of has to be there,
yeah,
and really I don't think it does.
I think the thing is, what I think should happen is you have single player games and online games separately.
Yeah, in which case I suppose Overwatch does make a bit of sense then.
Yeah, which is what I think, I think you're seeing that more and more now these days with, on one hand you've got games like, online-centric games like Team Fortress 2, Overwatch, Tom Clancy's A Rainbow Six Siege, World of Tanks, War Thunder, stuff like that, and then on the other hand you've got single-player-centric games like the Final Fantasy, BioShock, and Ace Combat games.
Yeah, they released a sort of box set like thing of all the BioShock games recently for like the PS4. Do you have a PS4? I thought you did.
No, I don't. I have an old battered PS2, and I
Oh right, yeah, the PS4 was your flatmate's, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, and we moved to different houses after we left our last house anyway, so don't have it anymore. I did play a shit ton of Fallout 4 on that, which is kind of what prompted me to get the PC version and then do my playthrough of Fallout 4 on my channel, but yeah, no, I kind of annoyed him with a bit much of how I held his PS4 at first, just playing loads of FIFA 15 and Fallout 4. I mean, to be honest with you though, as practical and as relaxing as console gaming is, I'm still much more of a PC player, really.
Yeah, I am too. I played like the new Lego Star Wars game on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like the new Lego Star Wars game. They've obviously tried to sort of mix up the typical Lego formula a bit.
Yeah.
With varying degrees of success. And also, like, when I was over back with my little sister, she's got, like, Mario Kart 8 and so on, so we played a load of that.
Yeah, which are great on the console. That's actually... there's a few kinds of games I generally feel I just prefer generally more on consoles, or at least with the console-type controller, like football games or racing games. I mean, even though I play FIFA on the computer, I always use an external controller for it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And
the great thing about consoles is, of course, the local multiplayer.
Yeah, of course, which is, is always more practical on a console. And that's why I kind of say... I mean, the thing is, overall, I do think PC gaming is vastly superior, but at the same time, I'll also admit that console gaming is probably slightly more relaxing, shall we say, because it is generally a little bit more practical. And this is coming from someone who's firmly a PC master race kind of guy. So, like, I mean, the thing is, I personally believe in most, if not all aspects, that PC gaming is superior, but I can completely understand why people do prefer console gaming. Because there's also an aspect, I think, of a lot of big-name gaming YouTubers prefer to do their work on their PCs and keep their gaming on their consoles, hence the reason why they might prefer console gaming, because it just allows them to unwind after they've finished working, and in some cases it is more practical to record on consoles. I mean, I'm not that kind of guy, but at the same time, I think it's perfectly viable, really.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know.
It is nice to sort of sit on your sofa and play, but then again, it's also nice to have the convenience of, just being able to, like, switch from doing your homework or whatever to playing World of Tanks or Undertale or whatever else on your computer really quickly.
What did you say you prefer more?
I said I prefer, like, the convenience factor of a gaming PC.
Yeah.
Simply because you can stop doing something important and amuse yourself for a little while as well without having to fire up a whole new thing of some kind.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true, yeah.
As, like, Yahtzee calls it in Zero Punctuation, it's the tax return factor.
It's the what factor again?
Tax return factor.
Yeah.
So you can do your tax returns on it as well.
It's just funny thinking about doing my tax returns while I'm playing Transport Tycoon Deluxe. God, that was amazing.
Yeah, I've never really played sort of simulation, semi-real-time strategy games like that much. I'm not a great fan of those.
Those kind of games are what kind of got me into doing strategy games, actually, and now strategy games are kind of like my favourite genre. I mean, Transport Tycoon Deluxe wasn't the first PC game I ever played, but it was one of the earliest ones I played, and it certainly got me into that general kind of genre. It is great fun, though. It's quite it's surprisingly relaxing, actually, if you don't get your company into enormous amounts of irreversible debt. Like, you just take out millions and millions. And
sort of like Monopoly, when it immediately gets a lot less fun.
Yeah.
When one person is sort of starting to lose a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like... I mean, it's fun if you, like, play it tactically. Just don't, like, take out millions in loans and then never pay them back, because then all of a sudden you'll have, like, thousands upon thousands on top of that in interest, and you just won't be able to pay it, and you'll just collapse.
Yeah. My landlord would go on about that being the evil of capitalism, and maybe he's right, but there we go.
Well, it's kind of a good anagram, I really feel, of, like, how, that system of economics can be both good and bad. Because I always say, I mean, the thing is, I would say probably I am a capitalist, but I've never said the system is perfect by any means at all.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Kind of interesting with the history of Monopoly anyway.
Yeah.
That it was sort of originally intended as a criticism of capitalism.
Yeah.
But in the end, that doesn't matter in the face of, like, when you get all three of the orange ones.
Yeah. Because
got a hotel on it or something like that.
I mean, it's a bit hard to do that through an interactive medium like that, because it ends up making your involvement in capitalism being the main winning factor. So it's kind of like falls in on itself. I mean, I can understand the sentiment they had, but it just kind of feels a bit... perhaps not the most, I'd say, wisest way of doing it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. So yeah, no, it's a strange game. It's not really one of my favourites. My
No.
father gets really aggressive when he plays it, though.
In what sense?
Well, he's just really competitive at that game.
Is he?
He nearly always wins. Yeah, I sort of get the same way whenever we play Risk as a family. It's sort of interesting, these kind of board games, because there's this distinction between American board games and European/German style board games.
Yeah.
American board games like Risk and Monopoly, it's all about competitiveness, whereas German style board games, things like Settlers of Catan or Ticket to Ride or something like that, are more cooperative.
Yeah. I just can't imagine that kind of thing because it's just kind of a bit alien to me.
Yeah, no, we should try playing something like Settlers of Catan.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, if we even, especially if actually we also find maybe a computerized version of it. That would be amazing for a podcast like this, actually.
It would actually, yeah. It's quite slow paced. I mean, I feel like, well, particularly this sort of game on World of Tanks, it's so fast paced that like slow discussion isn't really viable as much as normal.
Well, I mean, we've always had, I think, a lot of good. I think it's a lot of good fun, and I think it is actually a good way to simulate a conversation. But I mean, and to be honest with you, in all fairness, we have been playing the most fast-paced version of the game yet.
Yeah.
We haven't been playing the vanilla version of the game anyway, so it's not like we really have anything to base it off.
No. Well, I think this was a good one. I think this was a good podcast.
Yeah, no, a bit more of a light-hearted one, which is good because I mean, even though I said we haven't really done one like this for a long time, I think it was good that I mean, the last couple of ones we did do were slightly more serious and darker in tone, so it was quite nice and relaxing. I think just to focus this one on being a little bit more light-hearted and just not as serious, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's anything we desperately need to discuss, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I don't care at all about, like the American political debate or the Labour leadership election.
Yeah.
It's just sort of embarrassing and it doesn't really impact us yet.
No.
There's no point in getting upset.
It won't do so for quite some time anyway.
Yeah. A lot can happen in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I may be going over to America at some point to visit my godmother. Unfortunately not in the election season though. It'll be in summer.
Yeah.
It would have been pretty amazing to go along and see the election happening. Apparently it's just absolutely mental over there. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I might be going over to America sometime next year actually as well myself to visit my brother in.
Oh, nice. What, in Seattle?
Yeah, I might do that sometime next summer after after this current academic year has ended.
Yep.
It'll probably only be for about like a week and a bit, but yeah, it'll be a lot of fun actually because Seattle sounds like quite a chill place. Sounds like a really good place for cycling actually.
Yeah, no, it looks like it. You can go up the tower. What's that tower in Seattle called? It's not the Sears Tower, is it? That's in Ottawa.
I think it might be actually, yeah.
Yeah, the Sears Tower. Okay, fair enough.
I'm not exactly sure though, but I think it is.
Oh well, I hope you have fun with that whenever you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to like go to the cinema sometime this week.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose there's that Cuba and the Two Strings film on, and have you heard of this film called The Wilderers? It's supposed to be really good.
The what?
The Wilderers, I think it's called.
Sorry, what?
The Wilderers.
I have no idea, no.
No, no. Well, what about this new film called Storks that's supposed to be coming out?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the one I'm most interested in at the moment is that Kubo and the Two Strings thing, so I think we'll probably want to go and see that.
Yeah, well, if you have a time you prefer to go, then you can do that. I can't go on Tuesday, though, because I've got a thing, because I got elected the student rep for the politics course.
Yeah, I could probably go on, like, Friday or something, actually, myself.
Yeah, why not? We can do that on Friday if it's still on.
Yeah, well, we'll check closer to the time anyway.
Yeah. Alright, well, this was a good one. I've got to go and feed my cat now. She's sort of looking at me accusingly.
Yeah, I'm going to go and order a pizza anyway because I'm getting quite hungry and I'm still quite hungover from last night. Anyway, thanks for being on here, man, and thanks to any of you who at home have been watching or listening to this. As always, my blogspot and the links to my cooking channel and my vlog channel will be in the description below, as well as my Twitter. And again, thanks to Phil for coming on here, man.
Anytime.
Yeah, so, I mean, and at the very least, I hope you guys have at least found this episode entertaining, if not informative, so hopefully we'll do another one sometime in the near future, but until then, stay tuned. We hope you've had fun watching or listening to this, and until next time, stay safe, have fun with whatever you're doing, don't do anything we wouldn't do, and until next time, I've been Gitbag the Great with
Flashsuppressor.
And we'll see you next time on the battlefield. Say goodbye.
Okay, right. Okay, well, I can't do the die with honor.
Oh, for fuck's sake, just forget it. Failure.
Okay, yeah, I know I failed. Let's see if I can't pull this back. Okay. No, I've got nothing. Goodbye.
Maybe I should just start doing the outros by myself.